Chapter 34 of the Jesuits in North America. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Jesuits in North America in the 17th Century by Francis Parkman. Chapter 34. The End. With the fall of the Hurons fell the best hope of the Canadian mission. They, and the stable and populous communities around them, had been the rude material from which the Jesuit would have formed his Christian empire in the wilderness. But, one by one, these kindred peoples were uprooted and swept away, while the neighboring Algonquins, to whom they had been a bulwark, were involved with them in a common ruin. The land of promise was turned into a solitude and a desolation. There was still work in hand, it is true, vast regions to explore, and countless heathens to snatch from perdition. But these, for the most part, were remote and scattered hordes, from whose conversion it was vain to look for the same solid and decisive results. In a measure, the occupation of the Jesuits was gone. Some of them went home, well resolved, writes the Father Superior, to return to the combat at the first sound of the trumpet, while of those who remained, about 20 in number, several soon fell victims to famine, hardship, and the Iroquois. A few more years, and Canada ceased to be a mission. Political and commercial interest gradually became ascendant, and the story of Jesuit propagandism was interwoven with her civil and military annals. Here, then, closes this wild and bloody act of the great drama of New France, and now let the curtain fall while we ponder its meaning. The cause of the failure of the Jesuits is obvious. The guns and tomahawks of the Iroquois were the ruin of their hopes. Could they have curbed or converted those ferocious bands? It is little less than certain that their dreams would have become a reality. Savages tamed, not civilized, for that was scarcely possible, would have been distributed in communities through the valleys of the Great Lakes and the Mississippi, ruled by priests in the interest of Catholicity and of France. Their habits of agriculture would have been developed, and their instincts of mutual slaughter repressed. The swift decline of the Indian population would have been arrested, and it would have been made, through the fur trade, a source of prosperity to New France. Unmolested by Indian enemies and fed by a rich commerce, she would have put forth a vigorous growth. True to her far-reaching and adventurous genius, she would have occupied the West with traders, settlers, and garrisons, and cut up the virgin wilderness into fiefs, while as yet the colonies of England were but a weak and broken line along the shore of the Atlantic, and, when at last the great conflict came, England and liberty would have been confronted, not by a depleted antagonist, still feeble from the exhaustion of a starved and persecuted infancy, but by an athletic champion of the principles of Richelieu and of Loyola. Liberty may thank the Iroquois that, by their incessant fury, the plans of her adversaries were brought to naught, and a peril and a woe averted from her future. They ruined the trade which was the lifeblood of New France. They stopped the current of her arteries, and made all her early years a misery and a terror. Not that they changed her destinies. The contest on this continent between liberty and absolutism was never doubtful, but the triumph of the one would have been dearly bought, and the downfall of the other incomplete. Populations formed in the ideas and habits of a feudal monarchy, and controlled by a hierarchy profoundly hostile to the freedom of thought, would have remained a hindrance and a stumbling block in the way of that majestic experiment of which America is the field. The Jesuits saw their hopes struck down, and their faith, though not shaken, was sorely tried. The providence of God seemed in their eyes dark and inexplicable, but from the standpoint of liberty, that providence is clear as the sun at noon. Meanwhile, let those who have prevailed yield due honor to the defeated. Their virtues shine amidst the rubbish of error, like diamonds and gold in the gravel of the torrent. But now new scenes succeed, and other actors enter on the stage, a hardy and valiant band, molded to endure and dare, the discoverers of the Great West. End of chapter 34. End of the Jesuits in North America in the 17th Century by Francis Parkman. Recorded by David Lawrence, October 2009, in Brampton, Ontario.